Yes.
My name is Ole Reitov. I'm a program manager at Freemuse, and before I talk about Freemuse, I'll say music censorship is a big problem, and the sound here seems also to be a problem with the ambulances behind here. But there is censorship of music in a little bit over 120 countries, and what we do at Freemuse is to document that on our website, freemuse.org. Do interviews with artists and support them when they are at risk, because one thing is being censored, that your music is not being played. Another thing is that you actually get into prison, get sentenced, even get tortured, sometimes killed. And that is what Freemuse is trying to do, to show that there is a huge problem. Somehow we tend to forget that censorship is around us, and censorship is a very complex issue, because it's not only that an authority, a police or a radio censors an artist. A lot of artists also censor themselves, what you call self-censorship. And then we have also what we call market censorship, where some of the record companies would tell an artist, don't talk about this because it could destroy your career. We saw that with the Dixie Chicks when they protested against the war in Iraq, and suddenly they were totally out of business for some years, and on top of that they got death threats. Now recently, of course, many people know about Pussy Riot, and Pussy Riot...
It's the Russian punk band, right?
The Russian punk band, and it's actually an activist group, and maybe it's not so much for their music, they're well known, but they've always been using music as part of their activism. And that activism is basically, in a way, to portray a corrupt political system in Russia today, which is also why the system wants to do the kind of repression, because after all, getting into a church, playing a couple of tunes in a situation where there actually were no people there for the sacred services, it really is showing a brutal power. And somehow many countries still feel the necessity of suppressing their artists. Yeah. We've seen that now also in Mali, where it's not the state, but it's Islamist extremists who may not, in a way, personally have anything against music, but music becomes such a symbol. And this is also so easy, in a way, to repress it. So when you say, now we're going to have a total ban on music, it shows the symbol of the kind of power that the extremist wants to show. Yeah. And in that daily life, not only are the musicians affected, it's in a way the whole society that gets affected. And we should also not forget that many musicians in the world are not the kind of musicians we know from records or from videos and whatnot. They are day-to-day musicians making their living playing at weddings or ceremonies. Yeah. And for them it's a complete disaster when you have a total ban on music. And it also affects the whole service sector around music, because think of it, wedding is a big thing in many countries.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you ban weddings, you also get people out of business who are making catering for the food, lighting systems, transport, hotels, whatnot. Yeah. So in fact, banning music has been a huge disaster in Mali. It was a huge disaster in Afghanistan, and it takes many years to come back and retrieve what was destroyed.
Yeah. And can you tell me a bit about the background of Freemuse? I mean, how did the organization begin? What's your personal background?
Well, my personal background is a professional broadcaster. I used to present world music at the Danish broadcasting, and I used to travel around the world and do interviews with musicians. And in that, doing that, I realized that there was a lot of censorship. So some other people I worked with, we decided we need to address this problem, and we made a world conference in 1998, and the participants at that conference were artists who had been banned from South Africa during apartheid. It was human rights activists, it was media people and lawyers, and they said we need to have an organization. We never really had that idea to make an organization, so out of that was created Freemuse.
And do you cooperate with Amnesty, or how do you view yourself?
Very seldom. It may be a joke. But it seems sometimes that some artists are working for Amnesty, but we feel we're working for the artist. No, it's a little bit of a joke, but Amnesty is so huge, and they cover so many issues. So obviously sometimes local Amnesty groups would be involved, and then we could collaborate. But we really are open to collaborations with any human rights organizations, because it's more important that the issues are being addressed than who is doing it.
Yeah.
And in many countries, very good activists and lawyers even who provide pro bono, meaning free of charge support to artists.
Yeah.
So we try to create as many networks as we can around the world.
Yeah. And how would you describe Free Muse somewhere along the line, activist and journalist? I mean, is it a combination?
Yeah, I mean it's a combination, because somehow beneath this there is an attitude, which is that musicians have the right to express themselves, and sometimes when you do journalism or if you do documentation of human rights work, you have to combine those different fields, and sometimes you have to be more activist in the sense when you make demonstrations or whatever you do. But basically most of my work is at the desk, doing the office work, and
of documenting.
Basically have my cell phone open 24 hours for artists at risk, and that obviously puts you in very strange situation when suddenly you are on a holiday in a nice place and you have a call from one of the artists who is in prison and somehow has got a cell phone smuggled in, and you have this kind of conversation. So how are you doing? You know, you're standing here looking at maybe a nice mountain, and you know this artist is sitting in a shithole. But I think the activist part never leaves us somehow.
Yeah. What would you consider as the biggest success of Free Muse?
The basic success is probably that when we started, most people said, when we said music censorship, they were like a big question mark. This is not the case anymore. There are a lot of media, there are a lot of organizations who've started focusing on music censorship, and I think probably that's the biggest accomplishment. On a personal level, I think some of the musicians that we have supported feels that they have found a family and some place that they can address the problems to. And that, of course, is another success criteria for us.
Yeah, sure. Okay, final question. I heard that you also have awards, and the last award has been awarded to the Le Festival au Désert in Mali.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit about that decision?
Yes.
Who made the decision? Is there a jury?
There is a jury actually, but the jury is rather small. But we felt that after having given the award several years to artists like Tekin Jafakoli, Ferhat Tuns, Rami Essam, that because of what happens in Mali, and because the festival has really done what it could to continue in spite of the really hard situations, that we wanted just to say, you guys are doing a fantastic job and keep doing it, because the festival in itself is a symbol of freedom of
it's a statement
music. It's a statement, and it's a very important statement.
Okay, thanks a lot. There will be an e-book out, I just heard.
Yes.
By Andy Morgan on Mali.
Right.
And you can obtain it through your website.
Yes, it will be out during springtime here, and already there is a report which is part of the book, quite extensive, which can be downloaded for free like the rest of our reports. But the e-book will probably have to find some way of paying Andy a little bit for his work.
Okay, thank you.